Since the early 1970s, when the commercial airline industry took off, air travel has changed dramatically. The busiest airport in the world, based on passenger travel, is the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, located in Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, 10 of the top 20 busiest airports in the world are located in the United States. With obesity on the rise and an increasing number of Americans traveling through airports on a daily basis, I think it's important to take a look at the relationship between food and airports and what kind of eating and nutrition practices airport culture promotes. We've all been to the airport and we know the drill. For most flights, you are expected to arrive 2 hours before the time of your departure, and 3 hours if it's an international flight. You check in and check your bags, go through security, and then you enter the terminal, where you have the remainder of your time to wait until your flight boards. In fact, travelers are spending more time at the airport now than they did 2 years ago. "51% spend 30 minutes or more at the airport before going through security, and 68% spend an additional 30 minutes or more in the terminal while waiting to board their flight. On average, passengers will spend 46 minutes in the terminal before getting on a plane, and advertising and marketing companies are well aware of these statistics. They take advantage of the time you spend in the terminal by filling them with food advertisements, places to grab a snack, bars to sit for a drink, and even dine-in restaurants for those with time for a full-course meal. That's exactly what the food industry is hoping for by placing food courts, restaurants, and convenience stores in the terminal. They make it hard to resist the temptation to grab at least a coffee or a drink while you wait, if not a snack as well to pass the time. People often eat when they are bored or killing time. A study conducted by California State University found that people who reported that they are not hungry are 2.5 times more likely to eat if they are bored as compared to those who are not. It's for these reasons that air travel passengers should be aware of what, when, and where they eat in airports. Before we get into airport nutrition and airplane food, it's important to take note of the food industry's target audience in the airport setting. The demographic group of young and middle-aged professionals and business travelers make up the bulk of the frequent flyers. But what constitutes a frequent flyer? A frequent flyer is defined as a person who makes 9 or more round-trip flights per year. It's important to note that most people in this category are in fact flying far more frequently than 9 times annually, as many of them travel on a weekly or bi-weekly basis as part of their job requirements. This group spends an increased amount of time in airport terminals and are surrounded by food advertising, fast food, and sit-down restaurants far more frequently than the average American. This demographic group also typically earns annual salaries of upwards $70,000 and therefore can easily afford the overpriced airport and airline food and beverages. 64% of airline travelers make a purchase at an airport store or restaurant, but amongst frequent flyers that number increases to 75%. So we know that airport culture certainly encourages passengers to spend money, and a good portion of that is directed towards food and beverage. But why should you care? The reason this is important is because the majority of food being promoted and served at airports across America is fast food or convenience food that's high in fat and sugar and low in nutritional value. For business professionals who work long hours and lead sedentary lifestyle, eating fast food on a regular basis can rapidly lead to obesity, which can be accompanied by a host of health issues such as hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, social stigmatization, and many, many more. One of the reasons I feel it's important to highlight some of the shortcomings of food in airports and on planes is because it's unfair that airline travelers have to spend their time in an airport terminal where they're subjected to food advertisements and temptations. This isn't that unusual in American society, and it happens everywhere, not just in airports. The reason this type of culture seems particularly unfair is the way airlines treat overweight passengers. Forcing an overweight passenger to buy an extra ticket or requiring them to ask for a seatbelt extension can be extremely humiliating. Crowding airport terminals with unhealthy and fatty food options and then expecting that every passenger fits into a seat that's 17 inches wide seems hypocritical and unfair. Take, for example, Southwest Airlines policies for a customer of size. Southwest's website has a series of pages dedicated to explaining their customer of size policy, which states, "The armrest is the definitive gauge for a customer of size. It serves as a boundary between seats, which measure 17 inches in width. Customers who are unable to lower both armrests and/or who encroach upon any portion of the adjacent seat should proactively book the number of seats needed prior to travel. Ironically, on flights that are 2 to 3 hours long, Southwest also serves complimentary Sale and Sabka gourmet chocolate chip cookies. I traveled to the Minneapolis airport to see for myself what role food plays in the airport and on the flight. I paid particular attention to all the ways that food is presented in the airport and on the flight. Although security took a while, even at 6 a.m., and I didn't have long to wait in the terminal, I found myself tempted to grab a breakfast sandwich before I boarded the plane. This leads me to my first observation. Airport food seems hard to resist. Though this seems like a basic insight, it's important to point out that when you are surrounded by food, it's far more likely that you're going to eat. I opted for a basic egg and cheese sandwich from the cafeteria-style fast food store. I was handed a plastic bag, which was to be my sandwich, and boarded the plane. My sandwich had obviously been microwaved, and given that it said 8:06 a.m. on the package, it was only 6:11 a.m. in real time. It's unclear how long ago the sandwich was actually constructed, or, as you can see, whether it contained anything that wasn't highly processed. Observation number 2. Much of what is served in the airports or on planes is highly processed and contains a lot of preservatives because of the difficulty of getting it into the terminal and making it quick and easy to serve. So I wanted to know what my sandwich was actually made of and how many calories it contained. So I flipped over the package, which led me to my third observation. There is no labeling. This is also true of the snack given out during flights. I faced this problem again on my return flight when I noticed that none of the menu boards reported calories for each item. When I asked a Quizno employee for the nutritional information for their subs, he proceeded to the back of the store, but when he returned, he was empty-handed. They had no pamphlets or nutritional information sheets to give me. While in the Minneapolis airport, I also noticed that there are an incredible number of food establishments in the relatively small terminal. Here's a brief look at just some of the restaurants in this particular airport. From the moment we pass through security, we are all basically captive consumers, and food services prey upon this fact. Not only are food prices in general inflated in airports, but the healthy foods are often the most expensive. Because there are very few alternatives, the select few who value healthy food above all else may empty their pockets to buy a salad or a fruit cup. But when money is an issue or concern, like it is for many people, the cheaper and often more unhealthy foods are going to be more appealing and desirable. While people are quick to accuse airport food concessions as being greedy and ripping consumers off, it is important to realize some other factors that lead to the price inflation of food in airports. The vendors have to pay much higher rent for the prime real estate they have in such densely populated spaces. They also have to transport their food through security, which has to be searched, as do the cargo trucks and vehicles transporting the food to the restaurants. Furthermore, restaurants and shops in airports are open longer, and therefore it costs more for a company to operate a franchise at the airport. A Tim Hortons sign in a Minneapolis airport reflects this issue. The good news is that there are ways to avoid food traps while in the airport, and next we provide a few tips on how to eat healthier while you're flying. Keep hydrated. Bring a portable water bottle or opt for a bottle of water over soda or juice. Drinking water makes you feel more full. Bring snacks from home. You're already packing for your destination, so just throw in some solid foods like nuts, fruits, veggies, or energy bars. While bringing liquids and gels through security is prohibited, many people can forget that solid foods can clear security. If you find yourself bored in the terminal, go for a walk, listen to music, or enjoy a good book. We hope you've learned something from this presentation. Simply being more aware of food culture in airports can help you make healthier decisions if you so choose to.